It's a fantastic day. Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers have made the playoffs. Oh, wait a minute. This is Bear Down. Sorry, we got to talk about the Bears. Shit.
You've crossed the point of no return, I think.
Los Angeles Chargers have made the playoffs. Jim Harbaugh's first season with the team, turned the team around. They made the playoffs. They clinched with even that roster that they have. They made the playoffs. And then the Bears are sitting here with a roster that's quote-unquote better besides the O-line, and we can't even beat the Seahawks and lose 6-3. That is a baseball score. 6-3 on prime time, Amazon, Thursday night for the whole world to watch. And I just kept tweeting to everybody, I'm so sorry for everybody. I'm so sorry you have to watch this. I'm so sorry this is what you're witnessing right now. Good God Almighty, was that game terrible. Like, I wanted to go to bed. It was so bad.
Bears Thursday Night Football is the gift that keeps on giving, but in the worst way possible. Always leaves you with something to say about Chicago.
So I just told you, and I want people to hear this. That game was so bad. On the game, you could hear chants of "sell the team, sell the team."
Mm-hmm.
There was paper bags on people's faces, and I had flashbacks of the Detroit Lions when they were 0-16, and people had the bags over their head.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so this is where we are now. This is where a top 10 franchise, one of the oldest franchises in the NFL, Coach Hallis, we have Hallis Hall, Mike Ditka, you have a bunch of legends, Dick Butkus, Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Walter Payton, like a bunch of history with this. And we have paper bags over our heads. We're at a point now to sell the team because the fans have had enough. I had sources of people there. They said that chant, sell the team chant, was so loud because it wasn't just one side of the stadium. It was the whole stadium.
Yeah.
People looked up at the box and gave Ryan Poles the finger. Like they were done. You saw on TV the guy with the bag gave the finger, like when the camera was on him. Like, I thought the pitchforks were bad before they drafted Justin Fields. Then that kind of eased the ember a little bit. This is bad. This is really, really bad for the franchise. And then a video was made. We were 4-2. Then it showed every single thing that has led us to this losing streak. It showed the Hail Mary. It showed the overtime versus the Vikings. It showed the Detroit Lions. Every game was shown except the Arizona Cardinal game because that one, they just whipped us. Every other game, there was like some play, something going on where we were just right there to win. And so instead of being on a 10-game losing streak, we could be 8-win team and talking about wild card. This is bad. Really, really bad. So that's why I titled this episode Sell the Team. Sell the team.
I do want to see how realistic they can have this done or how much this would be listened to. It probably won't be, but I'm with everyone where it's just kind of depressing, and I just kind of go, man, I can't wait till we can talk about just like playoff seeding or how good we are in a conference or, in the division, like the rest of our division. And, we're just not there. We're just not. And this was a year that was supposed to be looked at as like that next big step where I know some folks like, we were never a playoff team. It's like, I don't know about that. We were preparing the offseason like we were a playoff team. We made moves like we were going to be a playoff team. There was talk that we should be viewed as a dark horse playoff team, or at least to many, I thought, a wild card. And we have not matched that. And, ever since, ever since that Washington Hail Mary, it's amazing seeing these steps to where we are now with a 10-game losing streak, in what I think might be next week 11, most likely, given the effort we have seen this year, even given the effort we've seen post Matt Eberflus being fired. It feels like it's just cratered even more, which is surprising when you give it how inept the last bit of the Matt Eberflus era was, and now seeing what it has been since. It's bonkers to think you can stoop lower, and you've gotten lower. And the kicker is that, you know, I don't like talking draft picks right now because I felt like we never should have been to this point, but we're not going to get in that top 3. Well, we might get top 3 if we're lucky, but like right now we can't keep adding on these picks, and we're actually competing with the team that we got a massive haul from just 2 years ago. We're in the same spot, and we moved all those assets we didn't have, which is why you see people, I think, flipping off Ryan Poles, why I think the calls for Poles' job are getting louder, because in the time he has been here, we haven't moved the needle anywhere. The needle is, if you want me to show you what it's been, there's a little like speed bump. That speed bump's a 7-10 season that I think was a mercy. It was not really, we were not a 7-10 team, sure, but we were not that much better. So
that wasn't a 10-6 Lovie Smith season that got him fired. That wasn't anything close. Or the 8-8 that we went to the playoffs with. Like at 7-10 was just the defense playing better. I think a schedule favored it. There was nothing standing there saying, "Oh my God, it's figured out totally." Just enough to keep Eberflus around, but it was just one of those things where it wasn't. We didn't take the churn, if that makes sense. Like I think we got closer to the churn lane. We got the churn signal on, but we weren't just quite there towards the exit yet. We were just kind of on our way, and we needed some extra moves to get there. They thought they made it with Caleb Williams, Odunze, and everything else, but you kept the same coaching around, and you didn't invest in your O-line, D-line, and you were just kind of hoping and praying, like the McCaskies have always done, is hopefully you find that diamond in the rough, and it just hopefully you're just in the mix, and that's all they cared about. It's really funny. So we're watching the game. My wife allowed me to watch the game on the TV. She's like, "Yeah, watch the game." So I have the game on, and I'm just starting to complain about the Bears. And I'm talking about the McCaskies. I'm talking about this. I'm explaining this. And she goes, "Why would they care if the Bears win or lose? They make money." So even she, who does not look into that, she goes, "Why do they care? Like, there's no reason for them to if they're making money. That's what they look at."
At some point, you wise up and you start realizing that, you know, a lot of this goodwill, a lot of the reason Chicago is a higher marked brand and more valuable brand in the NFL is because of its media market and because of the history that the Bears carry from origin to, well, I'm just going to cut it at like 2006 at best. So that's about it. You know,
right.
You're kind of just riding on that, you know, in the good graces of, well, we're a historic franchise. We have the second most championships in NFL history, but then you start digging and most of the championships are from the 60s or earlier. And then you have the 85 season that still many hold on to, but keep in mind, next year's the 40th anniversary of the 1985 Super Bowl run to Louisiana, where they demolished the New England Patriots back then. It's the gap keeps widening every year. And there's not been a worse time, I think, to be a Bears fan than what has been the post Lovie Smith era. I think we went from our most successful stint as a franchise since the Mike Ditka era from the early 80s to the early 90s to essentially grasping for straws after post Lovie Smith. We went from a 10-6 season to, oh, thank God we had at least one more like 10-win year.
Well, during the game, I don't know the exact number, but they said something about ever since 1985, the Bears have had a below 500 season, like 20 or 20 some seasons out of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like since 1985, the Bears have won 9 playoff games since 1985. Like that's bad. Between
It is.
1984 and 1991, which was like the golden times, won 6 NFC Central Division titles and a Super Bowl. Then we suck for a while. Then the Lovie Smith era comes along. Then between 2005 and 2007, won 2 consecutive NFC North titles, NFC Championship, and we went to the Super Bowl. And then we finally kind of have a magical moment in 2018 that nobody saw coming. And then it's just kind of, I think people are waking up now because of social media and the access we have to see some of these stats and look it up whenever we want.
Yeah.
And I also think it was like our head football coach has season tickets with the family. For a while now, he wants to get rid of them. If they don't, they go because they need to use them. But there's times where he's like, anybody want the tickets? Because they just like we're tired of going to the games.
At what point it's the value? You go to a football game. If you have a football period, okay, whatever, fine. I'm in that space too. But at the same point, like if I'm a fan and I'm a disgruntled fan, am I going to just keep accepting being disgruntled?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like during this, like the game on Thursday, how many people at that game were parents that saved up money and this was the Christmas present to their kid or kids or somebody, and they have to witness that. And it's now it's going to come down to where if they don't start fixing it, maybe they go, hey, instead of Bears tickets, let's just go to a Bulls game. It's cheaper. Let's go to a Blackhawks game. It's cheaper. You're inside. We don't have to watch this.
I only laugh at that because of how it's funny because it's not even Bears sports. It's Chicago sports right now. There's like, where are you going to watch a good, like, successful franchise in this day and age? The Cubs are the only one that even come close. But if you're a Cubs fan, Steve, you know that the Ricketts family is one of the cheapest ownerships in baseball. They want one of the best brand recognitions and merch sales and fan support in MLB, but they are one of the cheapest in terms of owners in the entire MLB. They have the pull to be a Yankees, but they do not spend like the Yankees or the Dodgers.
Well,
and that's an example. That again, the entire Chicago ecosystem of sports right now is in a very ugly state. Chicago and the Bears, I would say, are probably the cream of the crop only because they are the largest brand in Chicago.
Yes. People might argue that the Cubs, but I think it is the Bears. Like when people hear Chicago, I think when they hear Chicago now, they think of the Bears Cubs. Now they do think of Michael Jordan and the Bulls, but they don't think of the current Bulls, if that makes sense.
I haven't thought of the Bulls as good since 2014.
Since Derek Rose times and everything else, Jimmy Butler times.
And once Tibbs was let go, that was it. Like it's been 10 years since Tibbs was let go as a Bulls coach. So just keep that in mind too.
Every ownership that I can think of doesn't spend money. Like the Bulls kind of have now,
and it's funny because 2 of those are Reinsdorf owned teams, and I think that's just a pretty easy common denominator in itself.
Right, and then the Bears never spend money in the right. The Bulls now spend money in the wrong areas, like certain players they give a lot of money to, and then they don't play for 2 seasons or something. Mm-hmm. The Bears usually don't spend money, but if they have, it's not in the areas that need it, right? Like DJ Moore deserved the money at the time, but now looking back at it, though, it's like, couldn't some of that money been used on an O-lineman? Oh, look at all the Swift money. Couldn't that have been used on a defensive lineman? Like, McCaskey's, you are worth, like, the team is worth $6.4 billion. It is number 9 in the NFL. And like I said, people I know that don't watch sports, when they go to places, the Bears travel very well.
It's funny because it's probably going to be more valuable if you, win games, compete for championships. That's not just me talking. That's like, look at some of the top values. Like the Patriots are up there part because Robert Kraft, but also because he took advantage of a brand that started winning and started getting fans and more media exposure because of winning. You know,
Yes.
that's why New England's up there at number 2, right behind Dallas.
And Dallas is only up there because of their past, but they also, and this
Jerry
is kind of
Jones
like,
is also a marketing genius. That's part of the thing as well. But
right.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, did I look at the Bears wrong? Oh, 2.45 billion. I'm sorry.
Still, I mean, imagine that valuation grows if you can start adding on success. You know, it does not. How do you build up fan base or grow your property? Sans NFL media rights, of course, and such. If you keep adding ill will onto the baggage that you're adding, you know, you're hurting your legacy. Like, this is a family-owned team that George Halas has kept in the family since his passing, and Virginia McCaskey's kept in the family since she has carried the torch. I mean, what do you have to show for it? Yeah,
she's 105 years old or whatever. It's
yeah. I mean, again, you want me to even go more modern? You know, 06 next year will be the 19-year anniversary of the 2006 season.
Jesus,
like, we're pushing 20 years since we last were approaching a Super Bowl. You know, I mean, I can go 14 years ago was the last time we even came close to scratching a Super Bowl in 2010. And again, that was under Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith is the last coach to have given us anything close to a consistent level of success in the NFL. You know, and I don't want to say it's only a Lovie Smith thing. This is an ownership thing as well, and how they manage things. But it makes you wonder, you know, I don't know. I guess I hate that we've gotten to the point where, like, it's not even worth talking about the game in like a technical sense, because you know it was just terrible. You know, I don't need to tell you how bad it is that you lose 6-3 over the course of 60 minutes, where you also watch the Seattle Seahawks have one of their most dismal performances all year against a defense that had been giving up in droves yards through the air or on the ground. In a quarter where they gave up 60 yards on the ground, they couldn't find any way to capitalize on that the rest of the game. And we lost 6-3. And to add in the even bigger stinker, Steve, the way that we lost ended Caleb Williams' interception streak that was pushing record levels. The one silver lining in the season left got killed off by a freaking lob because, well, protection broke down. He had nowhere to go. 7 sacks on the night.
Yeah, broke the sack thing like that. What was it, over 60 now? Like, I remember every time they got sacked,
like he's at 67, which
they were like 60, 61, 62, 63, and I was like, oh shit.
Which, remember, Derek Carr's record is 76, so he is 9 behind that. He's not going to break it unless Green Bay goes insane. Caleb Williams currently is number 4 on that chart. Likely could finish top 3 or 2 by the end of the year. The only 2 higher ones are either David Carr or Randall Cunningham. Carr had 2 of the most sacked seasons in the NFL at 1 and 3. Carr's is 68 as the 3rd highest in 2005. Randall Cunningham was sacked 72 seasons in 1986 in a shorter year. So it could get uglier. But to say this has been a successful first year with your rookie quarterback in that regard, in terms of the thing that your GM was supposedly had invested and thought he had gotten solved, is kind of funny. That's a stain if I've ever seen it.
Oh, it's god awful.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we're being a dead horse talking about the O-line. I mean, it was obvious, but Caleb Williams didn't play well yet. You know, he missed throws. He made some bad throws. It's been inconsistent on this losing streak. And I think the losing streak mentally has affected these players like it should.
I mean, here's another one you want me to add on. If I want to tell you reasons, and I'm just going to jump into this. If I want to tell you reasons to fire Ryan Poles, by the way, not only has Caleb Williams reached this insane height of getting sacked just this year, Justin Fields is on the list of most sacked quarterbacks all time as well, mind you. He is ranked tied 22nd for the 2022 season. Remember, they got slightly better in 23. I mean, the evidence here, I'm ready to move on from. I don't know about you. I'm ready. I think it's why do I want to go into next year and rebuild with him? He's clearly shown he does not care about building that part.
I keep leaning towards giving him a year, or like this is his last time. But then the more that stuff starts to come out, the more you go, yeah, maybe it is time. But I'm seeing a lot of people put faith into Kevin Warren, and I'm sick and tired of watching people post about how I know this head coaching hire is important, the GM decision is important. I'm tired of watching people put all this faith into him because you're talking about a guy that, from petty bullshit from the Big Ten, blocked Ryan Poles from trying to talk to Jim Harbaugh. Not Jim Harbaugh blocking anything. Like, I know the first time Jim Harbaugh tried to talk with the Bears, it was kind of more of McCaskey's, but then Kevin Warren literally coming in and blocking it because whatever pettiness you had from Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. So the trust in Ryan Poles, what about the trust in Kevin Warren? Like, literally they said when they brought him in as his sole job is the stadium and money. Like, that's what he's there for. So you're telling me that we're going to put all this faith into him to make these decisions? Because what if a guy comes in to interview and he's petty with them, like, oh, just his tone and how he said this? Like, that's how petty he is if you literally didn't want to talk to Jim Harbaugh. Forget whatever was done at Michigan. He bought a kid a cheeseburger. Whoop-de-freaking-do. And Jim Harbaugh, who is I don't know if you put him at legend type of coach, but he is a really, really good football coach. And he decided to put his foot down against the rules of the NCAA and the Big Ten and just kind of fought back. Good for you, because I think it's all ridiculous. So don't put the faith in Kevin Warren. All these people are ridiculous. Let's put all the faith in Kevin Warren. I don't
put faith in Kevin Warren's only stamp on what he's done so far up to this year, because he's been forced to do it, is fail to secure a stadium deal. That is all he has done, is jump from plan to plan to plan. That's all we see. But I mean, does that give off the impression that he's been actively hands-on in the organization? I don't think so. I don't feel like he does. You know, I'm not there every day, but like, it seems all I know Kevin Warren for is, well, I can't get a stadium deal done in Chicago or in the suburbs. So
no.
I'm just that guy. I'm just the stadium guy. That's all I was brought in for. I'm the stadium man.
Right. And then did you see like him and Ryan Poles give this handshake hug thing? It's like, have you not seen each other in 3 years?
Then you hear the reports that apparently Poles doesn't like how Warren manages him. And like, to me, it's just like, okay, look, do something. Because I think I don't know if Kevin's gone anytime soon, because they want this stupid stadium deal just done. So I think they're not going to move on from him. So,
no. And they literally just hired him.
I am on the side of, you're stuck with Kevin, move on from Ryan, because Ryan still hasn't done his job well. So, and you might as well cut ties, put everyone on the same page again. Screw it. But that also requires money, which I don't know if the McCaskies are willing to pay for 2 more. There were also talks that Ryan Poles, what his contract is, no one knows that. Is he going to get paid even more if he's fired? Like, that's all in the wind. No clue.
But it's like, McCaskies, you have the money to do it. That's
do.
The issue. And it's not like once you pay this, you're not going to make it next year.
Like, at this point, here's the thing. Warren, we've already know the chain of command. Warren's going to be the guy doing the main heavy lifting, searching anyway. And then it's Ryan Poles sign off. But again, if Ryan's not doing his job right, you might as well just freaking fire Poles and just let Warren pick the next both.
Yes, because is Kevin Warren putting his foot he
already has a stranglehold on finding the stadium. You might as well let him pick everyone that's going to be under him anyway and work with him directly.
The only thing I liked what Kevin Warren has done is, there's no proof to this, but it's just from what I'm gathering, that he kind of put his foot down to McCaskey's and said, I am going to fire Matt Eberflus, and I'm going to tell Ryan Poles, you have to fire him.
Well, and keep in mind, this is also why I'm saying this. Kevin Warren came in after they were hired. Keep
Right.
this in mind. So you have a team president who came in, does not have his own GM or his own head coach, which, as you're saying, just like the reports are saying, he went and said, no, fire him. Do not keep doing this little song and dance. He needs to go. Went over his GM's head. To me, that just screams, move on. You're going to want to move on from your GM. I don't see this relationship lasting. If it does, it's going to be really awkward next year with a new coach. So and then you're going to have even more pressure on Ryan Poles because he's going to feel like he's a dead coach walking. Basically, switch out coach for GM. You have a GM that, unless they perform, is basically waiting to be fired.
Right. That's why I kept leaning towards give him another year, but then the more I think about it, the more I'm watching things unfold. If Kevin Warren is going to be the guy, like, nope, you can only interview this guy, and this guy, and I'm going to be there and you're going to sign off on it. Like, that's not usually how it works. It's usually the GM. Now he tells the president, like, hey, I'm going to interview Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel and this, just keeping you in the loop. And they're usually like, okay, cool. That's awesome. Like, those sound like good coaches. And the general manager could go to the president just for advice. Like, hey, I'm having a hard time. I like these three coaches. That's when you can bring them in. Like, I feel like that's a way to do it. Kind of like in high school, when an athletic director interviews a head coach, there's usually a panel, and it's just there to help the athletic director bounce ideas off. That's just how it works. So this is very awkward in that Kevin Warren came in. Okay, Ryan Poles is here. Let's just see how he does. It's not working. And it's not even like a firing of like an FU situation. It's just kind of like hey, I have a way of looking at things. You have a way of looking at things. Things aren't going well. You'll go get another job. Let's just kind of, it needs to be like a mutual thing. It needs to be like Ryan Poles going, you know what? I haven't done a good enough job. Things are bad. I don't get along with Kevin Warren from a business perspective, like the team. Maybe as a person, because they were high-fiving, whatever. Maybe as people, they enjoy each other. Maybe it's just time to kind of like part ways. And you know what? I'll end up being okay with that at this point in time. Like, you know what? As long as you're not tearing down the roster again like a couple years ago, if you want to tear it down from the general manager spot, get a new general manager. We need a new head coach anyway. Maybe this is how you start it. Like, hey, some of the pieces are already put in place for this team. It's not like we're going to tear the entire roster down like we did. Bring a guy in. Maybe then when you get rid of the general manager, you start interviewing these guys. If they have guys they trust and that's how you hire, maybe that's how it works.
Yeah, maybe so. That may be the case. Now, I did want to see what the latest on polls is, just because I'm curious. And now, credit Sports Mockery, so hold the brakes, but it is related to the Hogan Johns podcast and reports from not only them but Brad Biggs. So this is around Poles' contract. Supposedly, according to the latest Hogan Johns podcast that took place after last week's loss, the Bears have until the end of next week, apparently, to extend Ryan Poles' contract if they wanted to. So I think all eyes are on next weekend if they're going to do it. Now, be fair, momentum says no. Kevin Warren and his attitude towards that front office, I think, says no. I think there's a very good chance they just and let him walk free. Again, what's the incentive? Your head coach he hired is gone. You have had 4 and 13. You're going to probably have 4 and 13 seasons in the span of 3 years. And you're about to have a quarterback give up a top 3 most likely amount of sacks in a season for a coach that didn't invest in a line as an O-lineman. What's the incentive to keep the guy?
Right. You might
if that is the deadline they're reporting, that screams this man is going to be let out the door.
And that's why I'm curious to see. I'm very, very curious Kevin Warren can lean into the way of like, hey, here's how I think things should be done. Let's make this head coaching decision together. And then I'm going to give you a year and let's see if you can't fix this now that you kind of get how I roll. right? Kind of
Mhm.
thing. I could see that happening too. I could see them saying, you know what? Let's just try it. But from like everything, when the Bears go 7-10, you expect next year to get at least 8 or 9 wins. Like you just hope to see improvement somewhere. That's just how sports work. It should
Mhm.
work that way in the front office. Let's just see if things continue to get better. You went 7-10 with that roster. Let's see what happens. And then it's not helping his case that he has come out and said, they asked him, like, what do you think these problems were or these problems were? He said, I think it stems back to the offseason and preseason of what things were doing. And I'm like, wait. So you saw problems
Yeah.
then and nothing was addressed until Waldron was fired?
I hated those comments too, because that just means that just means incompetency. The man's been sitting and just letting things play out. I trust the coach that hasn't shown me enough yet. You
Yeah,
know?
that's what pisses me off. Like, I understand you hired Matt Eberflus, but like, you're attached to him. So, like, whatever, especially in the pro world, if you're seeing things, you should have pulled Matt Eberflus in and said, hey, what's up with this? What's up with this? But no, he just
Yeah.
sat back and goes, oh, he got us to 7-10. The defense is going to play. That's another thing. The Bears used to rely on their defense so much, and it worked during that time of the NFL, but the NFL has changed so much that you kind of need more balance than you ever
Mhm.
did before. Like, I mean, even ever since like 2018, like we had a really good defense, super good defense. Mitch Trubisky wasn't as bad as people thought and did just enough to like stay in a game. Rex Grossman, even in the 2006,
Sexy Rexy.
sexy Rexy. But now NFL has changed a little bit. So you're just sitting there going, well, Ryan Poles just kind of fell into the status quo very quickly of like, well, I just trust that Matt Eberflus is going to keep the defense like good enough to keep us in games. And I think the talents of Caleb Williams and the wide receivers we put together are going to be able to like keep us in games, and the defense is going to do really well. And it started off that way, but then what are you going to do when injuries happen? The coaching isn't as good as it was. You have a rookie at quarterback. I'm not saying I think getting rid of Justin Fields was the best move because you had to move on.
It was time. Yeah.
It's
I-
just
yeah.
Ryan Poles has just not had made the good decisions. Now, some of the decisions are gambles, right? When you draft somebody, it's a gamble. Free
Always.
agency signing is a little bit of a gamble, but in free agent signing, you have to make sure you have film on free agents. So you watch them on film and you go, can they fit into a system that we want to run? Like Swift does not fit into a Waldron and all that with zone runs. Sorry. Shea Waldron wants to run zone stuff.
Right.
Swift fit into that, but then you forgot the most important piece. Your tight end and offensive lineman. Can they fit into that? No, this O-line, as bad as they have played at times, is a gap scheme run team when they're healthy. So those are other question marks I have for Ryan Poles is like, you're an offensive lineman, number one. Like you played O-line.
Right.
You watched this O-line group that you put together and watched times that we were successful. It is gap scheme runs with sprinkles of zone because everybody has to do it. But then you go hire an offensive coordinator that loves his zone runs. We saw that at the beginning of the year. DeAndre Swift, who fits into that scheme. But the O-line is not that. And then also the O-line coach. Where's his blame? Like, it's been pretty bad. We all go to the OC and head coach. The O-line coach, too. Like, it's been really bad. And he's been there for years. It's been kind of bad. Where's all that blame?
There are many things I want addressed, and I think there's not enough time. And I think there is enough to say I don't want to hear it at another time. That's why I'm like, if that report is true, that Chicago basically has until Black Monday, well, the week before Black Monday, like Friday or Saturday, wherever the end of week is, probably Friday, my guess, end of business week to decide if they want this man on for at least another year, then I'm seeing the end of the road for what was a short 3-year and disgustingly pathetic tenure that has been the Poles Eberflus era. And I think it's time for a full reset. Again, keep this in mind too. So if we're talking future coaching, we'll talk more about a candidate in a minute. You know, Ben Johnson has been very adamant. I want this, this, and this. I want to be not oversought and micromanaged in a way. What's the point of keeping Poles if you have a man that if you want this kind of candidate that bad, why keep a guy who is a lame duck GM when you can hire someone that is on the same page as a guy that wants input on the guy that's going to help him make a roster in his image? It just, all the pieces make sense that he is going to be out the door. I don't see it happening. There's been no good wins. There's been no wins, period, since Eberflus has left. There have been all losses. All of them have been disgusting losses, by the way. Nothing close. I don't count a 6-3 loss as good because it was such a winnable damn game and you only put up 3 points. Sorry. No close loss, pat on the back. And quite frankly, silver linings are getting old as they are anyway. I'm getting tired of talking about them.
There is no silver lining. If Caleb Williams threw for 500 yards and we lost 6-3, I would still not be sitting here going, "Oh, look at the silver lining. He had 500 yards."
Hell no. Yeah, no. It's definitely that it is time to have the entire thing let go. Kevin Warren's not moving anywhere until stadium's done, so he stays. But the whole thing is Kevin doesn't want to be managing the roster. He is a business president. That is what he's doing. So this is where you hire the people to go, okay, it's your job to get the football shit right so I can go and finish the stuff I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't see how Poles survives. He is probably gone. And we will be talking probably coach GM combos by the end of the season instead of just coach candidates, which will be fun.
Within a week, we might be talking about that.
Probably, I would say Black Monday. They're probably going to fire him. He'll be one of those classic, like, Monday morning or afternoon fires. He'll probably be gone. Or earlier. Might be earlier, too. I mean, if they're not extending him, F it. Why wait until Monday? You might as well just fire him Sunday night.
Might as well. As soon as the game's over. As soon as that final whistle blows.
I don't foresee him beating Green Bay, so might as well just add on to being like final nail in the coffin, quote unquote, you know?
Because let's see, what time's the game? Oh, it's TBD. Cool. Flex game, it'll be on the 4th or 5th. Cool.
Yeah, probably.
Why couldn't they have flexed the Thursday night game? Like, hey, move your game to Sunday and put a different one because that was terrible.
Right. I mean, I know with like CBS and Fox, they're only allowed to flex so many games a year.
Which is bullshit.
Maybe Amazon has the same rules, I guess.
Well, first of all, they need to get rid of Thursday night games altogether because...
Well, coaches I know hate them. So that's already an incentive right there.
Well, I remember listening to a bunch of these players and coaches. They're like, what's the point of a Thursday game? Because you play on Sunday. Because you're going to play a Thursday game after playing Sunday. That's just what happens. You play Sunday. You're not going to do much Sunday night as coach as you are. You're not going to be with your family, but like the players, they need to go home. They need to rest. You're not going to practice Monday right after a game. So you're just going to watch film and get treatment and all that stuff. Tuesday, then, after one day off, you're going to have to go out and practice. And then if you're traveling, you're going to have to leave Tuesday or Wednesday morning and travel. And then Wednesday, you can't really practice hard or do anything because you play Thursday.
Yeah.
So it's just pointless. I know they do it for money and the fans love it. They love the fact that they can watch football on a Thursday night. I don't care. I do not care. The only time a Thursday night football game makes sense to me is if both the teams are coming off a bye week. They play on a Sunday. The next Sunday they don't play and they play on Thursday. If you could figure that out, cool. But I don't understand Thursday night games. I don't get it. It's not good on the players' bodies. It's not good for the mental health of coaches to try to put a game plan together. And Thursday night games are just, I don't recall a good Thursday night game because there's no game plan. Like, you have to keep it so simple. You're like, all right, guys, they run a 3-4 and sometimes get in this and do this. Here you go. Offensively, we're just going to run the same playbook we did Sunday because we can't really tweak anything, and then you have to feel the game out. So that's why they're so bad. I don't understand why Thursday nights were popular at first because it was football, and then the more it's gone on and you're adding all these games, you're adding an extra game. Now it's 17 games instead of 16. Like, it's not – but again, NFL doesn't care about all that stuff. They care about money. They care about these TV deals, the deal with Amazon Prime, and that's all they care about. And at some point, the NFLPA needs to step up and say, hold on a second. Like, this is not going – like, we need to get rid of this.
Right. Well, then one of the reasons why they do Thursday is because the NFL's philosophy on keeping the league in the eyes of the public is by spreading out the schedule. So keep in mind, you get a game that's a marquee game on Thursday to start the week. People on Friday start discussing it, carries over to Saturday, preparing for Sunday's games. Then you have Monday night. You talk about the entire week after Monday on Tuesday, and then you prepare for Wednesday night. And that's what the idea is, you know? And then you add in like later years of Christmas. So like then you have like all week is just everybody focuses on the NFL, you know? But it sucks for players and coaches because now they get these short weeks where they're like, F it, preparations are prep is more the focus, less about recovery. And we just got to get through it so we can have an extended week off.
Why can't they make it Friday then?
Because high school football, because they try and it's why they don't do up until this year. College football didn't touch Fridays until Fox and them wanted to start doing it more. At least on a national broadcast scale, because I don't know, there's this whole underlying thing of respecting the different days that each owns, you know. High school gets Fridays, college gets Saturdays, NFL gets Sundays.
Well, here moving forward, they have to figure out like, hey, how many teams have maybe even scale back to Thursday. You don't need a Thursday one every week. I understand that the whole point. Let's say every 2 weeks, 2 teams come off of a bye week.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe try to schedule it where the 2 teams that are going to played on Monday night. Like there was 2 Monday night games. What if 2 of those teams played on a Monday, then they played the next Thursday? Like there's your kind of bye week. Play that Thursday. Then the next Thursday there is no game, Thursday night game. Build up the anticipation of like, okay, you just had football Sunday, Monday, Thursday. Now we're going to have it Sunday, Monday. You take a week off. You're going to have it Sunday, Monday again. Oh, this is the good week. Thursday we're going to have football again. Like just constant keep interest. Like have a week off from it. That's just me, though.
It were that easy. You know?
Health of the players. I'm thinking about because, like in high school football, you play on a Friday night. You don't play again until next Friday. You have plenty of days off to recover and everything else. College, you play on Saturday. You don't play till Saturday again. Once in a while, they'll play on a Saturday and play Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still plenty of time to get things done. Sometimes in high school, this happened to us. We played on a Saturday, then we played on Friday. So we lost like a day to prepare. But if you think about the way you're going to set up practice, you still Sunday off, Monday just watch film. It's still a day off for your body, and then we just kind of go. But it can be done. They just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I think again, there's money. I think there's money incentive for some of these other leagues. You know, is the thing, and I think college football to me, I'm not that I'm saying it's a 1-to-1, but you'll know this too. College football is, as much as people want to argue about and complain about the perfectionist of CFP, it's gotten only bigger, and the money's flowing more exponentially than ever before. It's not NFL levels, but to me, I would think it's starting to rival like NBA levels of money at this point.
Oh, for sure.
You know? Like we're like if I want to tell, like we're talking definitive monies of sports in an order. Both levels of football are higher than or at least minimum height of the NBA's money, which is crazy to me.
Well, the NFL brought in more. Let's just call it out now. LeBron James. Christmas is NBA. He's like, I love NFL, but Christmas Day is our day. LeBron James, the ratings were higher for the Netflix football games than it was for the NBA games.
LeBron James and saying something stupid or not like correctly informed lines is like a thing that goes hand in hand. The man is an expert at saying things that either make no sense or have no basis on what he's talking about.
Well, he's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot. So that's. I've never been a fan of LeBron James. Anyway,
I mean, but there you have it. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, shoot, dude, if you want to talk about ratings for like TV, the CFP, pretty much anyone, all those games except for I think one beat the top game of Christmas Day broadcast for round one. And some of those were jokes. They're blowouts.
I will argue that the national championship game for college football brings in really good ratings compared to the NBA Christmas game. I will argue that.
I think this year it will, just because the playoffs I think it's going to weed out the best possible option and make that competitive final piece. So,
I will argue that these bowl games over the last couple of days, I've seen more tweets and discussions of these bowl games than I did on Christmas Day for college football. I will argue that.
God bless the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Oh, that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I love bowl games. I love that they added that. You have to make it exciting. Snoop Dogg's was awesome. His announcing was awesome. Like,
oh yeah, that's right. He was on the mic for the it's the gin and juice company that he owns now or something.
Yeah, and he funny enough, an alumni for the high school I coach at, he's the defensive coordinator at Miami of Ohio, and he was in the game. They got to meet Snoop Dogg. They got to do this.
Nice. One of these years, I will go down to Tucson because I'm only an hour and a half away. I really need to go to that bowl game.
Barstool did it. I'm sad that Barstool didn't do it again this year. When they did it, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Snoop is. I know we're off track, but whatever. Snoop is, I think, just so pop culture to where like he can just make it fun either way. I mean, the CW was probably thrilled that he was the sponsor still. You know, from Dave Portnoy and his cronies to Snoop Dogg being Snoop Dogg.
Well, but at least for Barstool, they made it fun. Like the way they were interviewing people in the stands, they were doing this. Mm-hmm. Dave Portnoy and them announcing it, like they were being fun, and they were like, I know some people maybe didn't like it. They're just being people. They're there to entertain. They're there to do this. I loved it.
Well, that's how bowl games should be. You know, I think between like that and I think what like they were doing for the Arizona Bowl this year and like the Pop-Tart Bowl, like, look, you're putting your name on it. It's your game. Like, make it yours. You know, the football's just around what you brought people to the table for.
Right. But anyway, Bears stink. Sell the team. They'll never sell the team. I keep tweeting at Pat McAfee to buy the team.
The rumor's still that Jeff Bezos wants it if it were ever to be sold. So whatever.
Elon Musk could buy it. Go for it.
I mean, he probably could, but yeah.
Can we get Dwayne Johnson to buy the team?
Sure. Let's go with that. Whatever. I need someone to buy this team. Because clearly the one we have does not care.
They'll never sell it though, so we can sit here and say this all we want. Zach said this a long time ago, and I don't want to ignore him. Bears offense in 2024, 288 yards and 17 points per game. 2023, 323 total yards, 21 points per game. 2022, 308 total yards, 19 points per game. 2021, 308 yards a game, 18 points per game. 2020, 331 and 23 points per game.
So the way I read these numbers is that it almost makes it seem like every quarterback we picked up in the draft has made things worse. Because if you think about it, 2020 was Mitch, and that was the last year we made the playoffs. Although I still put an asterisk on 2020 because they expanded the playoffs that year, and Chicago was not a worthy playoff team to make it in. That is
true. That is true.
So whatever, it still counts, but like I also forget about that season in entirety. But yeah, they finished 9-8, lost to New Orleans in a winnable game. But yeah, if you want to say that the stats claim that that our offense has gotten worse every new quarterback, then yeah, those stats support that by all means.
I hope he wasn't talking about Justin Fields being good, because another thing I'm tired
not that either.
I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of seeing man, I miss the days of Justin Fields, and they put up this highlight, and I'm like, I could make a highlight of Caleb Williams this year and making some plays. Like, I'm getting tired of seeing that. I'm getting
I think
tired of, oh, he's not a backup quarterback. Apparently he is.
I think a lot of this speaks to what fans just want to see change, because like I think they're trying to find anything that was or used to be good. So like I've seen people that have gone back and said the Matt Nagy era wasn't as bad as you think, or Matt Nagy was definitely, or they would show Matt Nagy's record and go, Matt Nagy was this and this. It's like, okay. I mean, I watched the entire Matt Nagy era. We had 2018 was special. And then we never could put it together after that. We spent the next 3 years going down.
I'm tired of seeing that too. I'm tired of seeing that.
I mean, we if you want to talk history, we can go back and talk history. It's very easy to throw a number up and say that was the only thing. It's just like how we talk with Justin Fields. Oh, Justin Fields, look at these amazing highlights. Yes. When he had a guy who was open downfield to throw deep, or when he ran, yeah, you can make a highlight package of that. But you know what? I didn't see success. I didn't see a guy that was a good mid-range passer, and he's a backup on the Pittsburgh Steelers right now with a job that was wide open. And I know that job is probably discussed right now because the Steelers are 10-6, are now 10-5, or 10-6, or whatever the hell it is, and that's up for debate. But I don't know, man. I still don't think Justin Fields improves the Steelers. I think Justin Fields is going to go find another job elsewhere, and he's a career backup. We have been down this road. People try and bring this stuff up because it's a bad year, but guess what? Sorry, all the other options from 2018 and beyond have been stale to just mediocre. It's not worked out. None of those past options were the right answer. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here. Is the simple fact of the matter. So I am done talking about Justin Fields. I'm done talking about Matt Nagy. I'm glad no one talks Mitch Trubisky, because people know that Mitch was not it. After 2018, we knew he wasn't it. So that was the thing. I thought, or sorry, after 2019. 2018, going into 2019, I thought that he was. And then we saw 2019 and went, well, he's not the guy. So, but Caleb, I still feel is the guy. It's just, Jesus Christ, we put up 3 points against the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, and that's kind of one of the last things to talk about, I guess, is, and I have to be careful because I want to contradict myself. A lot of people are going after Caleb Williams and talking about how this isn't the guy. And he's, a lot, and they're starting to put blame on him. And it's just this cycle of blaming of, and we talked about this last time of, okay, we want to blame the offensive coordinator, so we took care of that problem.
Yep.
We thought we had it solved-ish with Thomas Brown. Not saying they were winning, but we saw some improvement. We're like, okay, you give this a couple weeks, maybe he'll figure it out. Well, things weren't going well, so the next person to blame is Matt Eberflus. They took care of that problem. Then things were still going bad. Well, they can't really point the blame at Thomas Brown because look at the position he's been put in.
Yep.
So the next point of blame is to Ryan Poles, but realizing that they're not going to fire a GM during the season, sometimes they do it, but it's like, you know what? You've already fired all these people. You can't do it. And like you said, if this knowledge of they have till next weekend or so to extend him, you're kind of pointing the finger at him. So then it becomes, well, nothing's done about this. So who else can we point the finger at? Well, they're going to point it at you're this quarterback that you put all this investment in, so they're going to point at Caleb Williams. And I always go back to, I'm going to blame the whole team. So when I say I blame Caleb Williams, I'm also blaming the running backs, the O-line, the wide receivers, the defense. I blame everybody. These people are now like really going after Caleb Williams, and maybe he's not as good as people think. And I'm trying to not to contradict myself, because when they drafted Justin Fields, I was on air with my two buddies at the time. I mean, they're still my friends, but we hopped on, and my one buddy was super excited. Me and my other one both sat there and said, this is not a good pick just because of we know what's going to happen. And I was kind of right. in kind of how the games have played out with Justin Fields. But I also sat back and said, I'm a Bears fan. Give him like 3 years to kind of see. And you really said that, like 3 years, 3 to 4 years. And just if you're seeing improvement over those first 3 years, you give him the 4th year and just kind of go from there. So I'm trying to give Caleb Williams that same thing of we've seen better things from him than we've seen with Justin Fields. There's some things Justin Fields did a little bit better than Caleb Williams. That's just how it works. Caleb Williams was on the ball too long. So does Justin Fields. But Caleb Williams is doing it for fear of throwing an interception. Justin Fields held onto the ball too long because I don't think he wasn't able to read a defense very well and like throw these things open consistently. Caleb Williams is a rookie. He and Justin Fields both had the offensive line problems. Some of those sacks are on Justin Fields.
Yes.
I want that to be pointed out there.
Oh, and it's not only you. Like, people have pointed out that it's, I think the rate that someone calculated by their own table was 45%. And that was before Seattle, by the way.
Yes. And I think that Justin Fields had a better run game than the Bears now have with Caleb Williams and the way it's progressed. Justin Fields did not have quite the wide receiver talent, but he had some. Let's not forget some of these guys at the time. Caleb Williams has also thrown for more yards than Justin Fields has done. Has not thrown all the interceptions. He has made great plays from a quarterback. And again, I have to keep repeating this. Justin Fields is super athletic. I want this to be like the last time we talk about Justin Fields. I'm going to make that rule. This last time.
I think this will be after this year because no matter what, Caleb Williams isn't going anywhere. So, you can't get Justin back. And quite frankly, I still, and I'll let you finish, but he is my guy. I buy that he was it was the right call to move on.
Yes. And
I am going to stick with that till I go to my grave. It was the right call.
It was the right call because from his rookie year till that point in time, he had not improved in the areas that he needed to improve. So, like Chicago fans do, we have to point the finger at somebody. So we pointed the fingers at all the coaching, saying they're not coaching him right, which is maybe partly right, but also you're a pro. So you have to do things on your own at times. Look at Peyton Manning's and the Tom Brady's. They were doing things to get better outside of just those coaches, because those coaches are also involved in game planning, practice planning, looking at free agents, doing this. They have a lot of other jobs to do. So they always can't put their sole focus on this. And they also have to coach the backups and then the backups to the backups, make sure the scout team gets right too. So there's a lot of things they have to do. Justin Fields is a super athletic person. I feel like no matter what sport he would go in or what position, he was going to be super athletic at it. People just got confused with athleticism versus quarterback play. And they wanted to compare it to Lamar Jackson, and they want to compare it to this. It's taken Lamar Jackson a long time to kind of figure out the passing part. It's taken him a few years.
Well, and that's what every one of us is going is like, hey, okay, cool. You can run. You are a fantastic open field runner. You can throw a deep ball like there is no other when a guy's open and place it. But can you do the other stuff? Can you look and find guys on the middle of the field? Can you look and find the second or third read and not panic and make the wrong choice? That's what Lamar Jackson has shown he can do. And that's why, again, he is very much in the discussion for his third MVP award this year. Yes. Is because his way of exponentially bettering himself year after year is beyond impressive to me. He still can run. He still is this insane athletic freak that can put up ridiculous highlights and just bail out of the pocket and run for 60 yards and a touchdown. But he's such a good passer now. He's such a better passer than he used to be. And that's what we didn't get out of Justin. We didn't see movement there.
Right.
That's why we moved on. Like, yes, you can make athletic plays, but if you're going to get injured a few games a year because you're running all over the place and you can't find ways to get a ball down the field that isn't on a consistent every game level, at least a bomb that has to be open, I don't buy it. I just don't, and keep in mind all the stats. You're like, well, he had games. It's like, yes, but a lot of those games were against terrible defenses.
Right.
Anytime they ran into any mid-range to reasonably competent team, they'd get slaughtered because, funny enough, it's almost like those teams actually have a game plan and know how to game plan against a guy like this because they're good personnel.
Right.
So,
and how many of those good games, quote unquote, good games that Justin Fields had that led to wins?
I'd say 0, but I'd have to check the stats. I claim 0, though.
Well, we didn't make the playoffs and stuff, so obviously not many, obviously not many. So, but what people are just going after Caleb Williams right now and blaming him for a lot of things. I get it. We're frustrated. We're going to start pointing fingers and doing all this stuff. Let's just remember he's a rookie. We've seen glimpses of him being able to stand in the pocket and make the throws. We've seen him be able – he's almost like your typical quarterback where I feel like the Bears need a type of quarterback like this that can stand in the pocket and throw, roll outside the pocket and throw, and scatter for a first down, like really literally right at the sticks when he needs to. Kind of like an Aaron Rodgers. That's what Aaron Rodgers lived off of. If he was outside the pocket, nothing was there, he could pitter-patter for 4 yards and get the first down. Like, that's what I think the Bears need. Even if they hire a Ben Johnson, a Mike Vrabel, watching those type of offenses, that's what they use. They don't really need a Justin Fields type. So now, if we're having the same discussion of Caleb Williams 2 years from now, then we can start having that discussion of, well, we haven't seen the same progression.
Yeah.
And then people kept saying, well, Justin Fields had a mess of a coaching and a mess of this. Why aren't people giving the same excuses for Caleb Williams that they did Justin Fields? So it's just all like hypocritical. It's like listening to Adam Hogue every day. Like, it's just this hypocritical thing of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
I don't know. I'm done talking about it, though, like you are. I think we've revisiting the history of that is not going to help anyone, and I just don't think it's going to do anything. Caleb is our guy. I am fully on board with that being our man. So, I'm
on board too. I think that getting probably a new general manager, getting a new coach, hopefully the right type of coach, can bring some fresh air. And then when you bring in a new head coach, we're probably going to get a whole new set of assistant coaches, new O-line coach, new this. So it's just going to bring a new feel to it. And it's going to, I think, just help Caleb Williams, because I will say this, no matter who they hire, I shouldn't say that. If they hire 3 or 4 of the names that are thrown around, I think all of them will be good for Caleb Williams, no matter who it is. I know Ben Johnson's the top pick for that reason. I think even if you hire like a Mike Vrabel, I think it'd be good for Caleb Williams, because Mike Vrabel understands NFL players. He got he got their quarterback at Tennessee to play. Like, I think he would still be good. I do think Pete Carroll's name thrown around, he obviously would fit into that. Even like a Cliff Kingsbury, because he played quarterback, he coached Caleb Williams at USC, and could fit. So I think if they pick from that pool, no matter who it is, I still think it'll be good for him in progression.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Speaking of coaches, do we have the candidate of the week lined up?
I mean, we haven't talked about Cliff Kingsbury as much.
We can. You want to talk about Cliff Kingsbury?
Because we've talked about Ben Johnson over and over.
Yep.
We've talked about Mike Vrabel.
Yep.
We just talked about Pete Carroll.
We did Pete Carroll last week. You're right.
So Cliff Kingsbury. Yes. Cliff Kingsbury. Everybody knows they should sell the team. I saw CM Punk on Netflix Christmas show say sell the team.
That, by the way, that broadcast I've seen clips from Netflix. Bravo. I was impressed. Yeah, I was impressed, to say the least. And it's funny, everyone brought up that clip since he said it. And keep in mind, CM Punk, his relations are to Chicago, and he was branding. He's from the area, so like he would know. He would be the guy to say that. Cliff Kingsbury, though, definitely up there. I think I've brought this up to you. I see him as a consolidation prize if Ben Johnson goes somewhere else.
Yes. Cliff Kingsbury's name is thrown around for a couple reasons. I just said a couple of them. One, he was around Caleb Williams at USC when he was an analyst. He played quarterback for Mike Leach. He coached for Mike Leach. He then was an OC at Texas A&M. Then he became the head coach at Texas Tech. He coached Patrick Mahomes in college, recruited him, got him there, coached him. He had a cup of coffee in the NFL as a player, and then they hired him as the Arizona Cardinals head coach. He had, I would say, one good season, but there was that progression building up to that season. But then they had a bad season the next time, and I think it was just time to part ways because it was a question mark to hire him anyway. You're bringing in a college guy to be automatically a head coach, and at a Texas Tech where he wasn't winning championships or anything like that. But I think they like his offensive mind, the way he talks to quarterbacks. I would say okay times at Arizona. The offenses were fun to watch, everything else. Then he goes then to Thailand and like gets off of the net, everything.
Escapes it all.
Then he reemerges. He was going to be the OC somewhere and then decided not to and everything else. So then he goes back to USC and does this, kind of gets his mojo back. And now he's the OC at Washington. And Washington just had that big upset the other night. That offense looks pretty good over at Washington with a rookie quarterback and the pieces they have. Seems very excited. So his name is thrown up because of his offense. It's an offense that Caleb Williams might know a little bit because he comes from that air raid system. He runs things like a Mike Leach, but adds more. He runs things like a Lincoln Riley with some run stuff in there. So it's very, stuff like that. He's adapted to the NFL style. It could fit Caleb Williams, and that's why his name is brought up. So those are positives. The negative is his tenure with the Arizona Cardinals did not go very well. They did have the one good year. The rest of the time did not go very well. The knock on him is they start off hot with that offense, and then as the year goes on, more film of that offense is put out there and what he's doing, and defenses catch up, and he doesn't adapt very well. And you're seeing that at Washington a little bit, where they started off hot, and then they kind of scampered off a little bit. They are winning games here and there. Now, that to me, that's a whole team thing, though, over at Washington, but his time at Arizona. So his name was hot for the head coaching job. Now it's kind of tapered off, but it's still thrown around a little bit. You're right, though. That's like your second tier Ben Johnson hire if you decide to go.
Well, and so my issue with Cliff, I see what he does as an OC. I don't trust his coaching pedigree whatsoever. And this is not only from his NFL days. I mean, have you seen his college numbers as like a pure college? I mean, 35-40 record as a college football coach. Only 2 winning seasons over the span of 6. 1 bowl win, and that was 2013.
Yep.
And he's never had more than 8 wins in that sector. I know college is different than the NFL. It's changed in college, whatever you want to say. But outside of an 11-6 wild card berth for the Cardinals, I'm not seeing much that makes me say the guy's a good locker room leader in terms of getting the most out of his whole team. I think he's one of those guys like a Matt Eberflus, I think, where keep him as a coordinator. I think he's definitely the guy that let him focus on one side of the ball. I don't think he's great at managing other aspects of stuff he doesn't like to do, is how I view it. And I mean, if you look back, so 2021, so the Cardinals actually, this was the Rams Super Bowl season. The Cardinals had a legitimate chance of winning that division, collapsed at the back half of the year, and then got blown out in the wild card. The year prior, if you want to talk about revisionist history, by the way, that year, the Cardinals blew a record that would have pushed them over the brink to the playoffs, if not for Kyler Murray's injury knocking him out most of the season. That year allowed the Bears to go to the playoffs in the wild card against the Saints. The Bears don't have a playoff berth that year if Arizona wins one of those final games down the stretch. After 2021, the Cardinals collapsed. Kingsbury's let go, send off to Thailand, is getting paid millions to do nothing. I don't like him as a choice to be a head coach because I'm not seeing anything that makes me scream he is going to course correct what he has done in the past.
Right. That if you hire Cliff Kingsbury, that as a head coach, you're kind of hoping that what he learned at Arizona, his time off, going back to college real quick to get his mind right, and what he's learning at Washington that he can bring to the Bears. It's a similar gamble to Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson's offense for the last couple of years has been more sustainable, and learning from Dan Campbell and understanding the NFC, the NFC North. So if Ben Johnson were to come, he understands that the whole division. Mm-hmm. Cliff Kingsbury, you bring him in, and again, people are saying to bring Ben Johnson in because everybody's sole focus is on Caleb Williams. If you hire Cliff Kingsbury, that's the real definition of like you're just bringing him in to make sure Caleb Williams and the offense does okay, but mainly Caleb Williams. That's why I kind of wish my hope would be you hire like a Mike Vrabel or a Pete Carroll and somehow, some way lure a Cliff Kingsbury over to Chicago to be an offensive coordinator and work. I think that'd be a tough sell because he has Jaden Daniels and stuff, but that would be an awesome thing to try to bring over because I think that offense would fit very well with the receivers, with Caleb Williams. You upgrade that O-line a little bit. That would be an awesome fit. But I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury would come because he tried to interview for the OC thing and it didn't go well. And when they asked him about it, he goes, no comment. So I don't know if he has a bad taste in his mouth from the Bears and everything else. That's another reason why maybe get rid of Ryan Poles. So that way you can re-interview these guys and say, hey, he's gone. We have a new general manager to do this. Or if you do that and you talk to Cliff Kingsbury, hey, who do you want to have general manager? Who would you bring in? Who do you trust? So I liked the hire of him at first, but that was my initial gut. Then I started to think about it. You're going to hire him on a gamble of what did he learn from mistakes? What has he learned from his time at Washington? Because when he was at Texas Tech, 8-5 was his best year. His next best year was 7-6. He did have his track record has proven that he's a better coordinator because in 2008, he was a quality control coach, 2009 quality control coach for Houston, 8-5, 10-4. So he was around that. The next time they did really well was in 2011. He became the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in 2010. Then in 2011, they went 13-1.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes to Texas A&M to be the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, coached their quarterback. You know who their quarterback was?
That would have been Ryan Tannehill then at the time, right?
Ooh, not at Texas A&M.
Well, darn it. No, hang on. Oh, sorry. Johnny Football.
Johnny Football.
I'm thinking Tannehill was also from A&M. He was receiver and converted. But yes, Johnny Football.
They go 11-2. Then he becomes Texas Tech, 8-5, then 4-8, 7-6, 5-4, or 5-7, sorry, 6-7, 5-7. So he's proven to be a better coordinator and a quarterback coach, in my opinion. Because like you said,
agreed.
When you are the head coach and you're calling plays, you have to be really good at your job in order to manage everything else. That's why Nick Saban has been so successful because he doesn't call anything. He is very involved. That's why Bill Belichick was so successful. Not very many people can do it. Kevin O'Connell's proven he can do it. LaFleur's proven he can do it. So there are some that can, but some can't. And that's okay if you can't. So he would be more at the bottom. The top of our lists, I think, would be like Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll now throwing his name. I would hire him over Cliff Kingsbury, even with age, bring him in. He is at that bottom. I wouldn't be quite as excited for it, but I'd still feel okay, but I wouldn't be as excited. You're just taking a gamble. It's another gamble. It's not a lame duck hire like a Matt Eberflus. I think there's more swagger to Cliff Kingsbury and everything, but I feel that you're hiring him if you can't get any of those other guys.
Yes. Kingsbury, to me, I see two schools of thought with what happens to him this year. So I think either he takes what will be considered a crowning achievement of getting into Washington, helping that franchise flip the script and become a high quality wild card opponent. Maybe they don't win a game in the wild card, but maybe maybe either they are scrappy or maybe they do steal a win in the wild card. Would be pretty hard because it's looking like they'll play Minnesota, or even if it looks like they'll play Minnesota, bearing Detroit losing to Minnesota next week. Either one's a tough opponent. But you put that in perspective, and that's either A, he rides the coattails of that, gets his second head coaching stint from a team that I think is desperate to find some sort of offensive guy. Or B, he decides to stick around and stick with Washington and build up and do like a Ben Johnson, where he goes, you know what, I'm not just going to prove him 1 year. I want to see if we can build this further. Or, as I'm thinking about this, option C, which I don't know if this is the option because I think certain Eric Bieniemy show that it's a risk. Option C, you leave the Commanders, you jump to another team, aka, in my opinion, Chicago, to try and solve or help fix the situation of the offense in that franchise with whoever you leave. Say you coach under Ben Johnson. That way you're in the same system, or you learn from Ben Johnson. Then you somehow succeed. Then you're more of a even better candidate for coaching. You're hired as a coach later. I think that's a distant ideal. I think options A and B are the most sense. Right. He's already got Jaden Daniels. Why move on from Jaden Daniels? And, you're already at the height of recovering your career because Jaden Daniels is right now the front runner for NFL Rookie of the Year. So why pick option C? But I'm leaving it out there because it's possible. You could see a success story out of that instead of what is Bieniemy trying to now recover his career, now being let go from UCLA. So, yeah, those are the dangers. But Cliff, I think Cliff personally will get picked up as a coach because there's enough teams that are desperate to take someone that has an offensive prowess and it has been a coach in this league before.
Right. So I wouldn't be super, super excited for that hire, but I'd still be like, well, this is better than what we had. So
my immediate attention would turn to who's the defensive coordinator.
Right.
At that point, that is the only thing I would care about is, oh, cool, Cliff's the coach. Great. Who's the DC? Because I don't want to stumble through like a Mark Trestman era where it's like, holy crap, we're putting all these points. Oh my God, what the hell happened to the other side of the ball?
Right. Right.
Like we lived through that for 2 years. There's a reason why Trestman only lasted 2 seasons.
Well, that would also be my concern for Ben Johnson too, is Ben Johnson is going to call plays. He 100% would call plays if he was the head coach.
Yeah, he'll be a play caller, head coach hybrid, like anyone like an Andy Reid,
So
hopefully be the one that's at the controls.
So hopefully he'd be hire a good defense coordinator. But I also guess that's the same thing for Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel would have to hire 2. Like, hey, make sure you get a good OC and a good defense coordinator. So there's good and bad to both. So with Cliff Kingsbury and Ben Johnson, you're looking at, if you're comparing, one's been a head coach at the NFL, one hasn't. One has had head college coach experience, one hasn't. But then we need to look at the success factor, and Ben Johnson's offense over the last 3 years has been pretty good. He's kind of developed it into his own under the help of Dan Campbell and has been a part of that rebuild. And so you're going to have to weigh those options with that. I would lean more towards Ben Johnson because of Cliff Kingsbury's head coaching time didn't go as well for the Cardinals. So you're kind of leaning towards Ben Johnson in that scenario. The only reason I would want Cliff Kingsbury to come to Chicago is if it was like a Mike Vrabel and he somehow convinced him to come be the OC. I would be super ecstatic for that. I'd be like, oh, cool. That's an awesome offense coordinator to bring in for this. But so his name was really, really hot when Matt Eberflus got fired. Super hot. And then it's just kind of dimmer down a little bit because now Ben Johnson apparently would talk to the Chicago Bears. People are getting away from Mike Vrabel because of how the Cleveland Browns have gone, but he's not really in control of that. He's just there to give advice, and the coaches do with it as they please.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So I think that's the Cliff Kingsbury story. I have a dark horse head coach that I'm going to bring up next time.
Okay.
I
mean, I at this point we're going to get into like some of the ones that are like maybe not obscure but lesser known names. Like one of these episodes we're going to talk about Cohen over in Tampa Bay. You know,
yeah.
I mean, he's out there. That's why we have to do it. Or Brian Flores. We also talk about him too.
You haven't even said the name that I'm thinking of yet.
Really? I'll save it. Won't be surprised. Next episode I'll be surprised. Okay.
It'll be a short conversation, but I just saw a tweet about it. So
all right.
A short combo.
Okay. I'll keep at it.
All right. I think we did good. I think we did good there.
Yeah. Good episode talking about the usual gripes. I just have no desire to break down a 6-3 game that has little to nothing to say about it, except the rookie QB lost his non-interception streak as the final blow.
Oh, this is the last thing I'll say. I've been waiting for a head coaching time thing since Matty Eberflus has been fired, and it finally happened. I'm watching them with like 2 or 3 timeouts, get a play. He has 2 timeouts left, isn't calling a timeout, and I'm tweeting like, why is he not calling a timeout? Why is he not calling a timeout? And then they get to like their 4th down, and all of a sudden Caleb Williams calls a timeout. I'm like, that's when you choose to call it? Like, it was just this way mismanaged time, and Thomas Brown was coaching to just get a field goal. He wasn't being aggressive. I think that's why he wanted the clock to run down, didn't call the timeouts. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, you learned from Matty Eberflus. I literally was so pissed. I'm like, well, here it is. Another mistimed clock. Yeah, I only did like that.
Unbelievable.
Thomas Brown, we just can't get away from it. But good news. The good news, the Chargers are in the playoffs. Go Chargers. Rooting for them. And Jim Harbaugh, the more he wins, the more Kevin Warren looks like a dumbass. So the more good they do, I'm like, well.
Reminder, he's the only head coach in NFL history to take 2 losing franchises and make them playoff franchises in 1 year.
Jim Harbaugh has won the last 40 of his 50 games as a head coach. I just want to point that out there.
Man is really good at doing things well. Coaching matters, people.
It does.
It changes how things are, how outcomes happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. Well, make sure you like and subscribe. We'll get another podcast going for the final game versus the rival, the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be flexed to either Saturday or play Sunday. God, I hope it's not a primetime game for the love of God.
I almost want it to just get out of the way on Saturday to just end this miserable season.
I would love for it to be Saturday at 11 a.m. Not even noon. Don't even wait that long. Saturday at 11 a.m. Get it going. Make it 9 a.m. Make it 9 a.m. Get it over with. So then they can just get rid of polls, hire a head coach by like Wednesday. Just get it going.
Why wait? Get the ground running extra 24 hours. Let's get at it.
Just please, for the love of God, don't make it Sunday at 7:15 at night because it's Bears Packers. For the love of God.
Please do not do that to me. Not another national broadcasted embarrassment.
Make it Saturday at noon.
Like, I know Green Bay didn't have a great game against Minnesota. They actually made a 2-point loss somehow, by the way. But they're a step above.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to watch that game because I know we're going to get our ass handed to us. But I'm going to watch it anyway because I'm a Bears fan. God damn it.
Oh, I'm going to watch it too. And I start work again next Monday. So that's just going to propel me into work after having 2 weeks off. It's just going to propel me right back.
Oh, man.
If I'm going to wear this to school, I'm going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a Chargers fan. I don't know what you're talking about. And then my Lions gear will be here soon. So I'll be like, I'm a Lions fan. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching or listening. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. We will see you guys next time.